bit of a pain, but
Yeah.
let me see if I can relocate outside. 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'll relocate outside. What's good, man?
Not much, man. Just so right now I'm parked out in LA in West Hollywood, and
Oh yeah,
I just heard the neighbors outside talking about the truck being in the neighborhood. They're like,
yeah.
he's gonna get a ticket, and I'm like, I'm just here, just like, well, then if I get a ticket, I get a ticket, whatever. Other than that, I'm abiding by
That,
parking signs. I should be okay.
yeah, right. That's always still look. The
What did
locals are always going to have a say, aren't they? Let's face it.
what did you say you were
One
at?
second, one
You
second,
were
one
at
second.
a fit what?
So it's a fit out. So a fit out. So basically, I mean, right now, I am the club general manager for a fitness company, and
Okay,
I'm basically in a pre-sale campaign, setting up a brand new health club. Um,
gotcha.
so that's
So
kind
is
of kind of
a
crazy time. So when I
a
was at
fit out though, is a fit out then like an English term or an Aussie term? I've never heard that.
I'm not sure. It's a yeah. It's basically like a shop fit. So like we're basically getting the place ready to go. Really, like putting up walls and decorating. Um, yeah, putting it literally. It was essentially an empty an empty shell when we got to
Yeah.
it, just a big warehouse space, and we basically had to put the walls up, fit out the changing rooms, the toilet facilities, the lot, my office, everything
So an
from
outfitting.
start to finish. Um, outfitting, yeah, same. Fit out, outfit.
But before you
But
continue,
yeah,
everybody, welcome to the Two Degree
yeah.
Podcast, brought to you by the Play On Foundation. I've been saying it wrong, and I made the title the Two Degrees Podcast, brought to you by the Play On Foundation. And today's guest, I am so thrilled to have him on board because one, I haven't spoken to in so long, and two, he was part of a
Hey,
very pivotal role, an integral role for who I am as a person. Because, as some of you may know, I worked on cruise ships, and this was the guy that showed me the ropes. So everybody, Chris Sweets.
let's
You
see.
don't
Can
go
you
by
say we
Sweets
worked
anymore.
or we had? I mean, I do, but I don't. Like, let's face
Yeah.
it. I do and I don't. For those that do know me, I'm still Sweets and I'm still Chris Sweets. But
Hmm.
for those here in Australia, I think the majority of them know that I mean, is Chris Hanbury, which is my family name.
Right.
Very few people in the cruise industry world knew me as Chris Hanbury, which was great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I
Fair.
still kind
No.
of go Sweets. People still call me Sweets. People so.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think you might have been a bit wrong there. You said we worked on cruise ships. Did we really work on cruise ships, or do we hardly work and have too much fun?
Drinking was work with you. So
Well, no, I think that was work, and then the next day was also work to try and combat the guests, and
so
as well
much
as
work.
whatever we had planned
Oh my goodness.
with a hangover.
And
So that was
I
always
don't
fun.
get
But I do.
how
I
like
was. Oh,
I don't get how he did it. It's still surreal to me how that was literally the schedule.
look, cruise ships. I think anybody that works on cruise ships will basically quite happily say that we are a rare breed,
Yeah.
of being able to be on 100%, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, look, I remember when I first signed up, I was only going to do one contract, 6 months. That was it. And 10 years later, I was still there. So I don't
Well,
know how that. I think I
didn't you
got
start
bitten
as
by
a
the.
guest DJ?
Yeah. I
Mm,
started as a guest entertainer DJ, and then essentially worked my way through the ranks basically, and then I cruise director on the Crown
mhm.
and the Island Princess, and then essentially I moved to Celebrity Cruises and was
Yeah.
the entertainment director for that. It was a completely game changer for me. I think it definitely reinvigorated my career at sea, and sort of gave me a new lease on life. I think at that point,
Yeah.
a lot had changed, a lot had happened in my personal life, which really kind of I think it was a great decision to move to celebrity at that point. And when I did it, it was basically like a clean slate, fresh start for me, which I think was amazing. It kind of put me on that path where I am now, which is great.
Can you give like a brief comparison of what ship life is, professionally speaking, how being a cruise director on Princess was different from being a cruise director on Celebrity?
Look, each business, each company is going to have their differences. I think the clientele, the guests are going to be the bigger part of it. But I think the brand standard as a whole between the two, they have the same kind of mindset, same sort of mentality, with having the guests come away on vacation, many of them of which would have potentially saved maybe their entire life to come on that ship. And all they were looking for was a great time. But when it comes to the small little details, the modern luxury brand that Celebrity has, I think that was more fitting for me. And then when it comes to that being fitting for me, it was fitting for the guests as well, because the guests were all like-minded. They're all, they're looking for that modern luxury kind of vacation. Whereas, as you all know, Princess's clientele was generally slightly a little bit older, depending on the itinerary. And they were all there for the same reason, to have a great time. But I think it was a younger, sort of more old, but say old but young. They were young at heart, essentially, on Celebrity. They were the older ones that you'd see them still out drinking in the bars at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You'd be like going, yes, I want to be just like you when I'm older, cruising the world and sat in the martini bar till 2 a.m. just having a great time. But I'd say that would be the difference. Essentially, would be the businesses the clientele, the guests. Whereas you have operationally, I'd say there was a little bit more of an operational structure within Celebrity than there was at Princess. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm being biased because I was more subject to it with Celebrity over Princess, but the whole structure from the marketing department all the way through the hotel department, from the hotel director all the way through to food and beverage director, bars manager, bar supervisor, etc. There seemed like there was a bit more of a solid structure. Whereas, not saying that wasn't there with
Didn't Princess adopt the entertainment director from Celebrity?
I think so. I believe they did, and then they had that role would essentially be the 3.5 stripe officer that would run the department. Wouldn't be the face though, and that was what the difference was. With Princess, they wouldn't be the face. They would be very much sort of an administrator of the department and run the department. Whereas the cruise director, which essentially was the deputy cruise director sort of role, would be the face. They would then be on stage, taken off the shows, etc. Whereas Celebrity, you'd have an activities manager that would be essentially the deputy cruise director of our time when we were with Princess. And then you'd have the entertainment director, cruise director, which would be not only running the department, but would be the face of the ship, on TV, over the PA system, on the main stage, the lot. So
when you were with Princess, I thought you were deputy, and then you were an acting cruise director, and then you went to Celebrity, or did you
that
actually
was on the island? Got
you. So you didn't solidify cruise director on Princess.
No.
Gotcha.
So there was a lot of back and forth with that, and it kind of. So I did. What did I do? I ended up getting promoted to cruise director on the Crown Princess. And that was while the cruise director conference was actually taking place. And what basically happened is, obviously, in that circumstance, all the cruise directors would be taken off the ships. And during that cruise, it was a very successful cruise. The hotel director and I massively got on. There was already that buzz at the Home Office around my ability and how I came across to the guests as well as to the department. So it was sort of inevitable that eventually it would happen. But then there was a lot of back and forth after that. I ended up transferring to the Island Princess to do it again. And then after the Island Princess was kind of like, there was actually, we want you to go back to, I can't remember, I think it was the Star maybe to the Star Princess, but as an assistant cruise director. And I go,
Oh.
whoa, hold on, time out. You just flew me across. You just flew me across the world to be on the island, Princess, to be cruise director, and then
I remember this.
Go down to deputy on the island. Then when my island contract finished, I went home on vacation, and then you offered me an assistant cruise director role, which is 2 steps down from what you just flew me across the world to do.
Yeah.
So I'm having to ask myself here the question of, is this what I want to do? You know, given the fact that there's the potential to go up to be the cruise director for Princess, which would have been great, nevertheless. But I kind of then put my feelers out to see what else was out there in that position, and I basically approached. I remember canvassing the directors, the shoreside directors of entertainment, for a number of businesses, NCL being one of them, Celebrity being another one, and they were the main two. And at this point, I think Virgin Cruises were in the very, very, very early stages. So I also reached out to their director of entertainment and their big bosses as well. And I remember sending the email. It was a Sunday morning, and it was a Sunday morning. I sent the email, and I actually got an email response back from a lovely lady called Becky Thompson Foley, who was the then director of entertainment's shoreside team for Celebrity Cruises. And she was very lovely on the email. She basically just turned around and said, so great, I'm going to put you in touch with a gentleman called Alan Brooks. And he looks after all of our cruise directors. Great, cool. 2 days later, I was on the phone to Alan, and we had a good old chat. I sat on the balcony of where I was living in Wales at the time. And then literally, I think 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Miami.
Wow.
And this was all during my vacation from after the island to before potentially going to the Star. And I literally, during this entire time, it was, I flew to Miami. I met with Alan. I met with Becky. I met with their entire Shoreside Entertainment's team. Went to the studio based in Miami, which was absolutely phenomenal setup. It's obviously Royal Caribbean's sort of entertainment department. So it was obviously split between Celebrity, Azamara, and Royal Caribbean. But their entire rehearsal studio is absolutely phenomenal facility. And essentially, I met with them all there. Had a chat with Alan, got to know Alan, and then essentially it was a case of, okay, so we're looking to get you started in 3 weeks' time, and you're going to the summit. I was like, come again? I was like, I'm going. I thought this was an interview, and the fact that I'd fly home and then you'd tell me later. But essentially, it was like, no, we want you to go on the summit. You're going to start 3 weeks from now, and this is what we're going to pay you. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, obviously, you don't need to make a decision right now, but we'd like to make a decision, like now. And I was like, oh, great, okay. Well, in that case, then I accepted. Obviously, I'd be stupid not to. It was an offer too good to turn down. So then I ended up getting out, and when somebody tells you how much they're going to pay you, and you go, sorry, come again? Is that for like the contract, or is that?
Is this your phone number that you just gave me?
Yeah. Dollar signs came into my mind, and then I was going, holy crap. I think the first person I called was my girlfriend at the time, and then the second person I called was my mother. And I went, my mom was like, well, what did you say? I said, well, what do you think I said? She said, I'm hoping yes. And I went, absolutely. I said yes. I said yes with about 10 exclamation marks behind it. I was like super excited, super pumped. Couldn't wait to get started. Went home. And then obviously I had that inevitable phone call with Princess to say, well, actually, I'm looking to leave. I was obviously not in contract. I was on vacation. So I had that conversation with Ryan Fitzgerald, who is now the director of entertainment's shoreside for Princess. And essentially, shortly after that, I ended up having a phone call with a good friend, and obviously he was essentially an integral role of the entertainment department with Princess, and that was Chris Nicholson, who I do remember when I was on the island and I was sat in the cruise director's chair in the office, and he came on to do some training about the latest program that we were running, which was all around our North to Alaska program, as we were doing a 7-day cruise. And I remember him coming through the door, facing, you'll remember the island. Obviously, you came through that door from the casino. You had the deputy cruise director's office right in front of you. On the right, you had the casino manager, and then you had the cruise director's office. Yeah. So he came through the door from the casino, and he came through, stuck his head in, and he pointed at me, went, "This is a great look on you." And I was like, and then since then, I kind of like, he's always been that one that we check in every now and again, see how things are with families and stuff like that. But he was, when he
Can I
heard
just
that I was actually leaving,
because talking about the island, I can't for the life of me find those videos that we did for the bear stuff. I don't know if you remember those, but then we made videos for the wake show.
Oh, the lumberjack, the lumberjack videos.
Those were hilarious, and I cannot find them.
What was his name? What was the junior that was there? Camillo,
yeah.
With Camillo. Where I remember those videos. And we were doing it in the gym, and then we did it everywhere, really, didn't we? I bet you I've probably got them somewhere on a hard drive somewhere. I have to go and blow the dust off it, but I'll see if I can find them. Because
if you
I think it'd be good to have a chuckle back.
Because like when I was on another contract, I did like Christmas ones, and I had a blast doing it. The cruise director at the time was a total jerk, so like I still had to.
Who was it?
It was no, they wouldn't mind if I say it because Princess doesn't like him anyways, but it was David Bradshaw.
I don't think I ever had the pleasure of working with him.
Like, I hope I'm not defaming him in any sense, but he was he was just a very angry person at times. And there was one time I remember that got the whole cast to turn against him where because like the lead male singer, his dad just had a heart attack, and then the whole cast is like, can we just put the tracks on for him? And then he was like, nope, he still has to go on. And I gotta say though, like such a compelling performance from this singer. I can't remember his last name. Jason was his name. But like he sang his fucking heart out. And I'm in the back and I'm starting to cry because I know what he's fucking going through. So but then here's the thing that happened with David.
So you have to turn your passion into love and then do it for your dad, I suppose, don't you? And that's you do it.
So what they did to David was Princess was trying to get rid of him, but then they didn't want to fire him because then they have to pay him severance. So what they did is they stuck him on back-to-back contracts in Australia, and Australians hate his style of cruise directing. So whenever he does like an Australian ship, he always gets low scores. And the Australians were able to drive him mad enough to quit. So he didn't get the severance.
Australians could do that.
Man, Australia was a wild time.
Yeah. No, it's like I fucking love it here. I'm not gonna lie. It's obviously Casey, my partner, and obviously my son. Obviously we've been here for coming up to 3 years now. And I'm not regretting a single moment. The only negative thing about being here is obviously my parents being back in the UK. They get very minimal, especially during this climate with COVID. They've had very minimal interaction with my son Harvey.
Damn. Too. Yeah, Australia's lockdowns are insane. Met him
when he was 2 weeks old, so that's been a challenge. But it's thankfully, one thing Casey's always said, and she said it since pretty much the start. If the world was going to end at Perth, and Australia would be the last place to go. And I essentially was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, it's super safe, like nothing ever happens here. And I was like, okay, yeah, until I got here. And then we're dealing with things like COVID, where the east coast of Australia has practically been shut down for the last 2 years. And we've been here on the west coast of Australia, just having a great time, living our lives as normal with very minimal lockdowns. I think we've had like maybe 1, 2 lockdowns, 3 lockdowns maybe, the first of which being a couple of months, which was, quite daunting. And that was in the early days of COVID. But then, of late, it's been like, I mean, we haven't had lockdown for ages. We've had like a week here and a week there. That's pretty much it. We've got minimal restrictions apart from, the fact that our PMs basically kept our borders locked out from the world. Which has helped us
I have a friend back in Vancouver who has family in Perth, and finally when they announced that they're going to lift the lockdown, the border lockdown, like she was thrilled because she was dying to get home. So she's going to get home next month, and I'm excited for her.
That's it. That's good. Yeah, my parents are.
Did you stop on cruises because of COVID? I feel like you stopped before COVID hit.
So Casey and I think we'd been together, I think about 9 or 10 months at this point, and we basically said that we were going to sort of put down some grassroots and settle down on land. So we basically did. We moved to England for about 9 to 10 months, and then we migrated to Australia after that. So it was kind of like we made that decision to, we wasn't sure if we wanted to be that type of couple that, would be like ships passing in the night. But I think we both made the decision that we wanted some stability in our lives, and we wanted to do it together. So, essentially that's what we did. And now here we are, 4 or 5 years later. 5 years later, and we've been in Australia for just over 3 years. So
is she Australian?
It all works out. She's from Perth. She is here from Perth.
It's funny how the whole Commonwealth thing works.
Well, that too, but it's too bad that whole Commonwealth thing doesn't help when you're trying to apply for your visa to stay. The dollar signs don't seem to change when it comes to that stuff. It's still a small vast amount of savings spent on visa applications, and then I think I spent the equivalent that it cost me to get here to get my 2 ragdoll cats here from the UK. So it basically cost. I think it was actually more expensive to get them here than it was to get me here. With quarantines and shipping and flights
on animals, though,
all that good stuff to transport. Yeah, they had to go 10 days quarantine in Melbourne before they could actually come to us in Perth.
That's funny.
And obviously we had to pay for all the flights in between. So that was fun. But they're here now. They're obviously furry as hell, and I hate in the summer because they're just big balls of fluff. But I think very much, cruise ships put me on this path where I am now. And if it wasn't for the cruise ships and learning what I did throughout Princess and getting through to Celebrity and then meeting Casey, I wouldn't be sat here in Perth now. Doing what I'm doing and having that stability in that way of life. So that I do attest to any number of any amount of gratitude to the ship industry. I know now that the ship industry is nothing like what it was before. I know that the cast and companies and entertainment staff of Celebrity and possibly Princess at this point aren't having. I mean, they have a great time because they love what they do. But I think the sort of restrictions that they have on shore leave and actually being out and around and about on the ship is definitely not what it was when we were there. And essentially it does turn into doing it for the love of what you do, which is part of the reason why we did what we did in the first place. I remember making that transition from being a guest entertainer DJ to being an assistant cruise director DJ. And it was my meeting with Lisa Ball, who was the cruise director on the Ruby at the time, that basically said and sat there, says, if you work your ass off and do well, you could be sat in this seat in 10 years time. And I saw that as a challenge. I said, okay, cool, let's do that. 5 years later, I'm sat in not in the same seat, but in that seat, but 5 years later. So it was.
How did the opportunity come to you to work on ships? Because for me, I was originally from Toronto, and it's a very landlocked city, if you will. And stumbling upon that opportunity was the most random thing, but I'm happy I did. And I don't think I would ever have succumbed to it. Like, what enticed you, or what even made you knowledgeable about the cruise ship industry?
Well, so here you go. So my dad, we went on a cruise. We went on the Independence of the Seas. It was my first ever cruise ship I ever went on, the Royal Caribbean. And we went to celebrate my, I think it might have been my dad's 50th birthday.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was. It was a significant year. It was a milestone year. So we all went on a cruise. And at the time, I was living in Manchester in England. So we obviously drove down and got down to Southampton, got on the ship, had a great time. I got to know all of the entertainment staff, all of the spa staff, all of the dancers, the DJ, everybody on ship. It was like kind of, I even went to,
How old were you at the time?
To Siam Park in Tenerife. Oh, fuck, now you're asking. I must have been like 21, 22. I was old enough to drink on the ship. I know that because obviously the ship's laws were the same. Even though it was in Europe, obviously it was 12, 21. Parents could sign the waiver to allow 18-year-olds because it was leaving out of the UK. So my sister was able to drink. So my sister was 18. So I was 22 because I'm 4 years older than her. So I was 22. And then I got to know everybody. Went on the crew trip to Siam Park, which is the water park in Tenerife. And with all the crew on the crew bus, everything. So that's how sort of I infiltrated crew life right there. I went to a couple of crew parties on the aft deck of the Independence of the Seas, kind of got snuck in by two. Apparently I was a new photog that joined in Tenerife, as what my story was, if anyone asked. I ended up going to a cabin party, which was kind of my first taste on crew life. I think that would have been October of 20, when did I join ship? 2010, so 2009, there or thereabout, 2010. And then the following August, I joined the Ruby Princess.
Gotcha.
As the guest entertainer DJ. And I think what did it for me was I was DJing at the time in Manchester, and obviously the club got shut down that I was at, and basically it kind of put a hole in income, and essentially I had to start looking outside of the box of what I was going to do. And I basically, my mom was like, you seem to enjoy ship life when you went on the ship, so why don't you do that? And then I kind of went on all the ship websites. I think I had a meeting with a lady from Royal Caribbean, and then I had a conversation with somebody from Southampton for Princess. And then I found myself driving down to Southampton again, meeting with them at their head office, the Carnival HQ in Southampton. A week later, I got offered a job. It was probably about 2 weeks after I started a job as a senior recruitment consultant for a company called Search Consultancy in Manchester. And literally it was like, oh, right, well, I don't have any independence. I don't really have anything holding me back. So screw it. I'm going to go do it. And I did it. And I did a 6-month contract as a guest entertainer DJ. Absolutely loved it, with the opportunity to be essentially passenger status and still have all the luxuries of the crew life as well. It was great. But then I saw the opportunity of developing that and getting on a career path to what I did, and switched over to be an ACD DJ for my next contract, which was great. Essentially it put me on that ladder.
What was it about your first contract that said, I'm going to keep going?
To be honest, I don't know what it was. I think it just all happened. I think I finished the contract, and then I got a phone call from Chris Nicholson, because at the time Chris Nicholson was the person looking after the ACD DJs.
Yeah.
And he was like, I hear you want to come and join my team. And I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, well, when can you start? How about the Caribbean Princess? I went, okay, cool. Let's go. Caribbean Princess it is. So then I think I met you, the contract after that on the islands, because did you meet, you would have met Robin, right? Yeah. So I met Robin on the Caribbean, and then you would have met her on the next contract, which is the island. And then, so he was like, yeah, absolutely. And that's when my relationship with Chris Nicholson really started, when I actually physically met him on the Ruby at the time, because at that point it was their newest ship, which was great as well. We were doing Mediterranean 14-day cruises. I mean, doing the Caribbean. And then essentially he came on in port one day while we were in the Caribbean, and I then got to meet him personally, which was great. And then that really started that relationship off, and Chris and I still exchange messages here, there, and everywhere, just to check in. And that was pretty much it. And then he was there throughout my entire career, even to the point where after, he was the second person I spoke to from Princess that was very much like, what's going on? Even to the point where Alan Stein, who was the then director of entertainment, had called me and said, we're sorry to see you're leaving, and you have been an integral part of the entertainment department during the 5 years you've been with us, and we wish that you all the best, etc. Ryan Fitzgerald were very much the same, saying he was a strong believer of great leaders in the cruise industry experience not just one cruise line but multiple, because then they take the best of their ability to multiple brands and flourish. He himself came from Carnival, which yes, very much part of the same umbrella, but he came from Carnival and then came over to Princess. So it's at the point I was making that decision to kind of branch out and see what the world of cruise industry could offer. And I don't regret my decision. I'll tell you that now, because I can't say I regret that, because then I never would have met Casey. So
fair.
And it never would have got me sat where I am now in Perth, Australia.
You'd probably still be in a very cold England.
Oh yeah, well yeah, absolutely. Well, it's going into their summer now, where it's going into our first day of autumn was like 3 days ago, and it's still 35 degrees here, so I can't complain. But no, I was thinking last night when my notification came up that we were having obviously our chat today, and I remember casting my mind back to when you were doing those. I think we were in your cabin or in my cabin. I think it was your cabin where we were doing we were filming an audition for you.
No,
I don't know what the show it was or what it was for.
For the audition, I do remember we did one in the chapel. It was nighttime and we went to the chapel because there was space.
Yes. Yeah. We did. I think we did one in your cabin, and then we did another one in the chapel.
Yeah.
On the island. And
like
what was that for? I can't even remember what.
I can't even remember, but I didn't get it. So because I started acting before I came on the ships, and I stumbled on the opportunity because somebody said that they were quitting their job that I hired them for because they were going to work on cruise ships. So that's how I found out about ships. So after I finished filming this movie, I just said, fuck it, I want to travel. Like I have freedom right now to do so. So I decided to get on the ship, and I tried to balance out ship life and trying to still audition. But then one big thing that kind of changed me was our job description was very presenter-like. So now I'm constantly presenting as opposed to trying to find this character and sit in the character and act. So when I watched my tapes over, I saw that I was really forcing the lines. Like this is clearly cruise director staff in this role. This isn't whatever actor it was. So it's like that was weighing on me. And then I did a few more contracts just because I got caught up in it. And then there's one contract where, did you ever work with a Marichal Stanton?
Absolutely, I love Marichal.
He was the one that kind of pushed me back into acting, and I was grateful.
Marichal Stanton look where he puts his glasses on the bridge of his nose and looks at you through the top of it, like top of the glasses like that.
Oh my goodness. And let me tell you this one story about him so me being as eager beaver as I was, there was this one event that was happening that I loved doing. I think this was it that I loved doing. And then Marichal was taking it off the patter. And then I told him it was a mistake, and he's like, just got to do it, whatever. And then the next day, I remember I pulled a passenger who said that he loved it. He loved this event. I pulled this passenger into his office. And I was like, hey, tell him how much you love this event. And then I got that classic Marichal look, like just, he's at his desk. He didn't move. He just looked at the guy. Look. And then it was just like, okay. And then I thanked the passenger for coming and sharing his testimony. And then I was like, so what do you think? And he was like, never bring anybody in my office again. I was like, oh man.
And I can hear that tone right now, the way he's saying.
Oh my goodness.
And he give you that really like, you didn't look.
Yeah.
Oh no, you didn't.
Man.
I think the only other person that gives that there was another deputy that was exactly the same. Like it'd have that look of like, are you kidding me? And that was John Lonely. John Loney is Mr. Energy. He was known as on ships. He was insane. Just the way that he I think whenever I work, I think I worked with John Loney. It was on the Star Princess the very first time I was there, and he was the deputy. I learned a lot from him, but also I think the one thing I took away from him was his energy, just being able to kind of replicate the energy that he had was just insane. And I think I took that then back to the next ship that I went to, which was the island again. And I think that first contract, I was like, right, I'm going to go 100% for the entire contract. And I ended up being there for 9 months because they extended me. And this was where I was up and down, up and down, up and down, from assistant to deputy, assistant to deputy, assistant to deputy. Sheila, I can't remember her last name, but she was the hotel director.
I remember Sheila.
I think she went on vacation
Sheila
twice. Yeah, so she went on vacation twice and still come back, and I was still there on the original contract that I've been on. And she was the one that put the massive recommendation through her, and not only her, Richard Joseph and Neil. Neil did as well, put through the recommendation.
Neil's cabin parties were a time.
They were insane. But then Rich Joseph, I remember Rich Joseph having that real predicament because he had an invested love in the ability and personality of Micah Richards. So there's one circumstance where I don't know how he did it, but he managed to have 2 deputies on the same ship. So basically there was Rich Joseph as the cruise director, and then there was me and Micah as deputy on the same ship. And we were just like, oh, we'll go with it. Screw it.
Yeah.
And I remember when we did the welcome aboard show, and you'd have Rich in the middle, and then you'd have me on the left, stage left, and then you'd have Micah on stage right, and we'd come out. And we'd kind of start this little mini argument on stage. No, I'm the deputy. No, I'm the deputy. You're the deputy. No, you're not. No, I'm the deputy. No, I'm the deputy.
That's so clever.
It was just the welcome aboard show was just a good old tease. And then the wake shows as well were completely different as well, because each day they would change, and some days you'd have both of us. One day you'd have to have one of us. Then the other day you'd have just the other person. I just think the way that we were able to adapt to that and just play on that was great.
Yeah.
And then after that is when I got transferred from the island to the Star. To do, I think I did 6 months there as deputy, and then I ended up going home after that. But yeah. I remember that contract, 9 months. The one thing that they don't tell you about going 100 mile an hour for the entire contract, especially when you do 9 months, is what happens at the end of it when you do stop. And I remember getting shingles straight after that contract, because I literally, my body was,
your body just shut down.
Mile an hour for the 9 month time. And my body was just like going, oh my God, no, we're not doing anything. Like, okay, have this shingles, take it.
I did 9 months on the Pacific Princess when I was doing the world cruise. The thing about that though that I loved was we really got to know the passengers. So by about month 8, I remember there's this one time where I woke up late just because I was tired, and then I got to the event like 10 minutes left to spare, and then there was people there. I think it was shuffleboard or something, and there's people there. They were doing it. And like all the passengers are like, hey, look who decided to show up. But it's like, because we already had that rapport and they've seen how hard I've been going, like there were no like complaints about it. They were like, yeah, no worries. We get you. Thanks for everything. I mean, we know how to shuffleboard.
Yeah. I remember like, I say I vaguely remember. I remember the many circumstances when I'd be scheduled on to do like the 9 a.m. line dancing class. And bearing in mind, I probably wouldn't have stopped drinking until 5. And I'd end up getting to the class like with 2 minutes to spare, smelling like Robert Downey Jr. after a long weekend. And literally, like, you can just, the smell of vodka is just pouring out of your skin while you're sweating, while you're dancing. And then I vaguely remember the next thing would be go back to the cabin and vomit.
Oh my God.
And that was like a regular occurrence on a sea day when you just go to the crew bar and just have it all out till 5 a.m. 99% of the time it would be a night before show for the cast anyway. They'd have a busy day as well. And then you'd end up doing these line dancing classes, and you'd have so much energy because 90% of the time you were still drunk. You'd end up going out, and you'd have this, you go out, you do this, and then you go to the mess and grab some food to kind of sort yourself out. And then either one of two things would happen. You'd be light as rain and you'd carry on with your day. You'd go on to do, I don't know, some other activity like paper airplane contest or something stupid. And then you'd be fine. Or the alternative would be you'd go back to your cabin and you'd just pass out for 3 or 4 hours before your next activity. Or you'd go back and vomit and crack on with the rest of your day. One of the three things would always occur.
Oh my goodness!
You know, it
like
definitely.
I don't think the people understand
some resilience.
What our schedule was. Not our job schedule, but like our schedule. So, like to give people an idea, the day started at around 8:30, 9 o'clock with whatever event was there, and it's just all about entertaining passengers. Lunch would come around, the afternoon activities, and then right after 4:30 trivia, that's when like the drinking started. We'd still sometimes try to fit in
pre-drinks.
We try to fit in gym time first.
6 o'clock club, always 6 o'clock club.
6 o'clock club.
6 o'clock club.
And then
always.
So
I remember playing 6 o'clock club, playing backgammon in the crew bar at 6 o'clock. A couple of games of backgammon before the show.
We get a couple drinks in, and then there'd be something where we'd have to go out, and then there would be 7 o'clock. Then we'd have another one, and then the thing was we did game shows. So it was like before the game show we'd have a drink, after the game show we'd have a drink, and then if you were at the theater, then you were interchanging having a drink between shows at the theater, and then now we had to mingle and what they call swan around, where we had to drink in the passenger areas now. So we're still drinking.
Entertain guests at the bars. I think literally your schedule consists of from 6 o'clock onwards, or from 5:30, because while you're getting ready, we'd have all the cabin doors open, music playing, you'd have a drink in your hand, or in our cabin, in our crew deck area, and then you'd basically just be like from 5 o'clock pre-drinks all the way through the night, and then between every single activity, it would be quick. Do we have time to? Do we have time to go get a drink? Yeah, let's go quick. Run to the crew bar. Like mine always used to be double vodka water sours. And it literally is like gone. And then you go to the mess, and you'd go get food, and you'd never order. You'd always just get straight off the line because you didn't have time. You'd throw the food on the plate, and you'd inhale it real quick, and you go, okay, cool. Right, we've got time to get one quick drink before trivia at 7. Let's go. And you run back to the bar, quick drink, and then you go back out and you do it. And then there's occasions where you just have to be like, oh my God, like I've drank too much and it's only 10 o'clock. You're like, whoa, I need a slight timeout. And then you probably like have, I don't know, Red Bull or something. And then you do another activity at 10 o'clock. And then you'd wrap up 11, and you'd probably 99% of the time go straight to the bar. And you do one of two things. You have a drink and stay there for the rest of the night in what you were wearing, or have a drink and then go back. And then when it goes back, that's that questionable doubt of, am I going to make it back to the crew bar? Like what I want to do to myself. And then you end up going back and shower. Do I want to do my body a favor and go to sleep? And then you go, nah, fuck it. Straight back to the bar, drinks are flowing, it's some cool activity. There's disco nights where like, oh my God, like the onslaught of people, just the sweat effect being in that one room, insane.
Oh my God.
The Filipinos, it's like literally the Filipinos go nuts.
Yeah.
The Filipinos will go nuts and dancing away, and then there'd always be karaoke somewhere on the ship. And it would always be in the laundry, where they'd have the karaoke machine from the crew club, because the crew club president would always be a Filipino guy from the laundry, and he'd have like a setup in the laundry where there'd be in one of the chemical lockers, and they'd be singing karaoke until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then and security would never shut it down, because 90% of security were also Filipino as well. So it was like, it's like a big who knows who kind of thing to get shit done and get around the rules essentially. And then obviously you just
like, go into like the mafias that are on the ships, and what would you get from them?
The Filipino mafia is the big one. I mean, like the Filipino mafia, if you wanted anything from the mess, then you need to have that Filipino hookup, like one of the galley staff. I mean, look, a lot of the sous chefs were Filipino or Indonesian or Malaysian. So you'd be like, if you've got a good connection in that thingy, 2 o'clock in the morning, you'd be like, hey man, can I get this? And be like, it'll just appear outside your cabin door. You're like, yes, winner. Mongolian barbecue nights in the and on the island Princess were always amazing. Like that night, you could always go, hey, do me a favor, like cook me up this dish, and then can you keep it here? And then like the Filipino mafia would just drop it off. You tip them $10 and they'll be like, yeah, here you go. Here's the dish that you pre-ordered like 4 hours ago. And then on the island, you go across the corridor, you go across the was it the M1? You go across the M1 and straight into the officers' mess through the training corridor, and then you bang it in the microwave in the officers' mess for 2 minutes, and then you go back to your cabin, opposite from where we were, quickly eat it, and then you just leave it outside the floor, leave it outside the door, and then the cabin steward could take it away the next day, and it was insane. You got obviously the Serbian mafia; they knew how to party. Absolutely, you want a good cabin party, and the Serbian mafia was the one to go to. They'd always be like listening to that kind of like angry house music, where just like fist pumping every time they drink so much Jack and Coke, it'd be like practically running through their veins. Then you've got the Latino mafia, like any Latino speaking nationality would have that little clique together. And then obviously you've got the Italians then, or the Italians would just be like 90% of them with a deck team anyway.
You just reminded me of with the Latino mafia was when Camilo being from Chile.
They knew how to dance, and they loved how to dance.
They
loved to dance.
But then Camilo
like,
was from Chile.
The Salsa Latin nights
there was
always
another guy. I think he was from Peru. And they like Camilo would always come back. It's like, hey, this guy doesn't like me. I know.
Absolutely, yeah. So there was that little. You'd always have that.
Oh my god.
It's just, but he was an absolute recluse. He was absolute recluse, Camilo. Like,
I wonder.
I do wonder what many people that I've interacted with. I mean, look, I'm fortunate enough to say that I've been on like all 7 continents and visited like hundreds of cities around the world. But it's the people.
You did Antarctica?
Were the main part of it. On the Star. I did the Star.
How was that?
It was insane. Like literally just you tender to a big ass slab of ice and you go, yeah, here you go. This is it. Sweet. It's not like there's a bar there. It's not like you can go to Barbados and go to like the boatyards and stuff like that.
I only imagine the views where it's just like massive walls of ice. Wow.
Insane. When you go around the Cape of South America, it's just like it's a cross between, you think South America with like the northern countries being relatively hot and humid, and you go around like where the most southern part of it, and it's just like bitterly cold and grey. And then obviously you go to Antarctica on those clear days, it's absolutely beautiful and picturesque. But then, for the most part when we were there, it was like being in a rainy day in Alaska with just glaciers and icebergs just everywhere. But it was, again, it's the experience. You do that for that. I think there's many parts of the world that I go, I'd like to revisit this place again, and experience it from a different perspective and a different point. Aruba has always been one that I've held very fond, close to my heart. Greece is another one. I think I actually think that Casey and I are tentatively talking about getting married in Greece, but we don't know yet. We spoke about it. COVID kind of locked that one down because she also has a very fond love for Greece. Yeah. And then I would probably have to say that I love Alaska. Just Alaska as a whole.
What about Alaska?
Out of Seattle, I think it's just the experience as a whole. Look, you can sit in Juneau and it'd be absolutely blistering hot and sunny, and then you literally leave the ship. You don't leave the ship. You leave the port on the ship, and within minutes, it's not only you've got the sights, but also the weather just changes. It's like all seasons in one day. The tours, the adventure, the wildlife, just the whole experience that you can actually go through on an Alaskan cruise is, you can see it all. You can do it all. Granted, you're not going to be lying at a beach sunbathing, but if you don't go on those itineraries, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for that sense of adventure, that sense of wilderness, just the great outdoors and everything that it brings, from when you go like up close and personal with a glacier, to, you know, even potentially going on tours where you're panning for gold and stuff like that. It's just, there's no 2 days on that cruise would be the same. You know, I love Aruba just because of the heat, the bars. You know, obviously Boatyard in Barbados is always going to have that very small love for that place because it's insane. And then any of the Caribbean islands, I suppose, I love, because I think I played golf on the majority of them, which was great.
Why didn't I know you golfed? You know, I would have gladly golfed with you. What the hell?
Oh my God. I think part of it was the fact that you called it "Let's Go Golf." I would have golfed with you. I don't think yeah. But no, I think there was a couple of contracts where I really played a lot of golf, predominantly when I was with Celebrity. I think every Caribbean port I think I played golf, a round of golf in. There was a small cluster of people that I play with.
Courses when I was going out of Hawaii. Yeah.
I remember playing on Honolulu. That was good. I think that was the same contract that I skydived as well, which was great.
I've been to Hawaii this is what I mean. Three times, and all 3 times I've tried to book skydiving, but all 3 times there was something. The first 2 times it was. I
think I did it with Armando.
And then,
do you know Armando?
Armando
Marin, a Mexican.
No, I don't.
I think I did it with him. It was great. Like, and then we did that, and then we ended up at Hooters in Hilo, literally just eating boneless chicken wings and drinking God knows how many body weight in beer, like literally, like.
Oh my God!
And it was always deck party night as well. Always deck party night that night, and we'd end up filling up on chicken wings and beer before we went to the crew bar and did TVRs, which is obviously tequila, vodka, Red Bull, and a shot of pre-workout before the open deck party, and we'd just be fucking crazy amounts of energy, like on the deck. Like everybody would be looking at us going, "What are these on?" Like it's actually just pre-workout and alcohol.
I don't think
we'd be taking C45 in small shots with vodka. It was insane. But then you got to think about all the reserve stuff that you do, where you kind of like, you have those quiet nights where it's not really a quiet night, it's just not as boisterous, and you know, where you sit and play poker for 5 hours, where you start a game of poker at 11 o'clock in someone's cabin, and you're sat there drinking, and all of a sudden it's 4 a.m. in the morning, and you're still going strong, and then all of a sudden you're going, you know, I've got an activity, and oh shit, it's tender day. Oh no, I've got to be in the dining room at like 6 a.m. to start tenders, and it's 2 hours from now. I'm going, I'm too much in to want to leave. So you keep playing unless you self-sabotage yourself, and you end up going all in on a stupid hand and losing. If not, you find yourself getting 10 minutes sleep before you go do a tender dispatch in the dining room at 6 o'clock, and I've done that many a time. So but you know, it's too funny, the stuff that you think when you think back about what you did and how you did it, and you go, nah, it's all good, I'll be right. I could do that on 10 minutes sleep. You could do an entire day on 10 minutes sleep. But that was very much the mentality, especially in the entertainment department.
Now you have a kid too.
Me? I mean, like I'm lucky if I get 5-6 hours sleep a night, just with other things, work and businesses, and you know, a 2-year-old and everything else. It's just right now there's just not enough time in the day, and I look back at the times that I did have back then and be like, yeah, I had a lot of time in the day that I spent drunk and having a great time. But you know, the 10 years I did at sea, I definitely do not regret a single moment of them. I think I cultivated a lot of, I won't say a lot of lasting friendships, but definitely I met a lot of people that, you know, like yourself, where I can sit and have a good old conversation and reminisce about all this crazy, silly, stupid stuff that we did, and the good times that we did have. You know, and then you've got the 1 or 2 people that, you know, you do stay consistently in touch with throughout. You know, and then even the likes of Chris Nicholson, I've mentioned now, I think 3 times now during this call, you know, the people that you didn't directly work with on a daily basis, but they significantly did and impacted your decisions and what you did and how you did things throughout your entire career. You know, and I have the utmost respect for people like that, and everybody that I did come across, and everybody that I shared moments with essentially in the last, over those 10 years I was at sea.
Excluding port
I'd say if it was
what's 3 things that being on ships like was a memory for you that you'll never forget?
First time on stage as the entertainment, that's such a roller coaster emotion of it's such a roller coaster of emotion in general. You said stage left or stage right, whatever side. You're waiting for that announcement. Now, welcome to the stage, your host, your cruise director, Chris Sweets. And then all of a sudden, it's like you can't not go now. You've just been announced. So regardless to the nerves that you might have, and granted, it got easier over times. Where it got to, I think, the early days where I'd be like, oh my god, reciting exactly what I need to talk about and say in my mind before I actually walk out on stage. But then, circa 3-4 years into that, I'll be holding a conversation with somebody I'm stood side stage, and I'll be having a conversation with the production manager or someone side stage. 9 times out of 10, it would be the actual act, like if you're clowning around with whoever the welcome aboard show act was for whatever reason, and then all of a sudden it's welcome to the stage, your host, your cruise director, Chris Sweet. You go, right, yeah, cool, yeah, sweet, yeah, well, I'll be back in a minute, and you just turn and walk straight out, and then it just becomes second nature what you're saying. And you literally
for the people
just
that are listening, like you're walking out in front of a full theater of people that are just ready.
Oh, you're talking what, 15 to 1900 people, give or take, depending on the size of the ship. And bear in mind, this is first impression as well. So like many of them may not know you, many of them may never have met you before. You essentially this is your first impression to make that impact on them. So your energy, everything you say, if you stuff up something, I remember my very, very first cruise with Celebrity Cruises. And I was talking about the daily, which is what they use. But obviously on Princess, it was called the Patter. And I remember talking about the daily I can't remember what I was talking about, but I said, and on your daily Patter, right? And then it was very clear to everybody in the audience that I had past affiliations or had worked with Princess in the past. Everybody knew. So, did you work for Princess? I was like, yeah, I did. Yeah, we knew that because you said Patter on the phone. You're like, God damn it! Like, and then it sticks with you for the whole cruise. Oh, it's the Patter guy. And you're like, damn it. But then, essentially that first sort of that when you walk out, from what you're wearing to and it kind of sets the scene and the mood for the rest of the cruise. And that was a big, big thing for me. There's any number of game shows that I used to love doing, like the Love and Marriage game show, Liars Club. They're all pivotal points in the cruise where it was expected for the cruise director to not only be part of it, but to be like the A game, to be like the person that will have you laughing in your seats, like to the point where you can't get up because you're too afraid that you peed yourself laughing.
Is that these productions that are being put on, not specifically like the dance performances, but I'm talking about the game shows. They're high quality material. And
absolutely. I look back through my show reel now.
Utilized, you have a show reel. That was the thing. Is like, why didn't you tell me to get a fucking show reel? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a show. It's on YouTube. I think it's actually still on YouTube. I think all my stuff from Celebrity is still on. In fact, I think all my stuff is still on YouTube as Chris Sweets, and my show reel and everything is still there. From everything I've done.
I feel like
throughout any number of years,
and no pun intended, like I feel like I missed the boat on that because I had some really great shows that I put together on my last contract, and I did it just out of my own interest, was to just to get back in the acting bug, where I created this show called Whose Line Is It at Sea, and I was the one conducting all the other cruise staff, and audiences are giving their suggestion. And I had Tim Donovan as my cruise director, so he let it be a late night R-rated activity because you don't know what drunk passengers are going to say. And so it just turned into this huge success, and the crowd was dying, and they're like, we need more of this. And I swear, if I had the right mind, I should have filmed all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I knew that I was doing a game show that I knew worked and would be, and I knew I could get some credible sort of footage of, I'd always have the broadcast team set up and be like, hey, I need to capture this, just, and they'd send me an MP4, and then I'd have like hours of footage of different game shows, different scenarios on stage, off stage, wake show, like the Daily Show stuff as well on TV when you're actually hosting the Daily Show. Like I look forward to that stuff every day, like to bring a new energy, to bring a new light, to bring a new informative way of just entertaining the guests. I think, like, and I look back at, like, I'm quite excited going, shit, I wish I'd gone into sort of TV presenting or something, because I actually thoroughly enjoyed that, and actually being on stage and presenting. It was great, that feeling, that sort of, like I said at the start, that emotional roller coaster that you're going through before you step out on stage. And it's kind of like you do this thing where, and there's a thing that Russell Brand actually did in Get Him to the Greek, that when I first watched it, that was like, that's exactly how I felt when I was side stage, where it's at the end, I think just before he's about to go on stage, and he does this thing where he's all like, and he goes all, literally, he's like straight faced and ready to go. But before that, he's all crazy, like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I'll go, that's exactly how it was when I was on stage, just about to go do a game show, like that, the emotion, like, oh my God, is this going to go well? Am I going to do this? Is this going to happen? Is this going to work out how I want it to work out? And then you get out there and you just do it. And you kind of just have to just get on with it. But those little things, like, I'll go, shit, I wish I'd kind of gone down that path. And sort of, but the challenge is here, there's not very many British presenters in an Australian climate, where obviously the Aussies, granted there's a significant amount of Brits over here, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure my sense of humor and the way that I work would definitely resonate with them. But yeah, I know that it would be a difficult kind of market to go into if I was looking to do something like that. But
what was something about ship life that was hard for you to adjust to?
Well, when I got back from land, when I got on land,
both. So like working on ships was,
well, after ships,
and then when you decided to work on land.
I don't think there was a lot that I struggled to adjust with on ships. I think it was when I got off ships that I struggled. I found that I had a lot of time on my hands when I didn't work on ships. One thing that I can tell you now that I miss more than anything, and I absolutely appreciate every single one of them, and that's my cabin steward. I fucking miss my cabin steward, from making sure everything was in its place to bringing my laundry and the lot. I miss that so much. It's a small thing.
There was this one time where I decided to have like a very healthy lifestyle when I was on the ship, and then I was able to strike a deal with the cabin steward where he brought me fresh fruit every day, and I was able to make shakes, and it was, oh man.
Yeah. Like, anyway, celebrity, I was able to have a breakfast order, so I'd have like coffee and juice and fruit and cereal and all that stuff just delivered to my cabin, and he'd come in and he'd go in. I remember my very first cruise. Like, I put some laundry in the laundry basket, and I wasn't, I was prepared to do it myself. I was prepared to do laundry, but it disappeared. All my laundry disappeared.
Oh,
and I was like going, did the cabin steward take it? And then a day later, it came back all pressed, all neat. Even my boxer shorts was pressed. I was like, God damn! It was like it was just like holding up a flag. Like, it was just perfectly pressed. I was like, damn, okay, cool. But yeah, I just, those little things you miss, like cabin steward. Essentially, not that I created a great deal of mess, but my cabin was always in a decent condition. Like, everything was where it needed to be. The place was vacuumed, the place was tidy, the bathrooms were all tidy and cleaned, and my laundry was, which is the most part that I miss, was definitely always clean and pressed, and literally just hung on my wardrobe ready to be put away. That was it. And I suppose when you look at that, this is one thing that I think is, not that I would never say that it's a bad thing, especially when you're in that position, but I do think that it's, granted, as you progress through your career and you go higher in rank, you get more privileges. So obviously I had a dedicated cabin steward. I was able to get laundry. I was able to get breakfasts. But Granted, you can't do it for the entire ship's company, but I do feel that it is a bit, there's always that stigma. So he can go get his laundry done himself. Casey used to give it me all the time. All the time. Oh, I'm just going to come to your cabin. I go, okay, yeah. Goes, yeah, I'm going to come to your cabin, and then I can just put my laundry in your washing basket and it get done for me. I was going, works for me. So she'd piggyback on my sort of benefits to her own, but that was always that stigma with ships about the senior officers and those that are higher in rank. She's only with him because he's this position, or he's only with her because she's this position, and you kind of take away from actual getting the person.
I'm Filipino, and so I remember my first contract. All the Filipinos looked at me in such a very cold way, because I was able to be in passenger areas. I was able to drink
because you're on the entertainment team,
right? But then it's like, it's a Filipino on the entertainment team. That's weird. And then they'd all try to see how Filipino I was, and then when they find out I'm full bred Filipino, then they're like, okay, cool. And then they see that I'm a personable person, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm the into the entertainments because I'm Filipino.
Well, that's it, and that's that sort of segregation that you get from different positions. Like, it's unheard of to have people in certain positions. Like, you go, well, no, it's not. Clearly they have transferable skills that got them there, or we wouldn't just go put in this position, where what we'd say 90% of the Filipinos on board are either in housekeeping or in the galley. I'd say housekeeping or the galley, or working in
on
departments where
when there was a waiter, there was a Filipino waiter, and but because he knew how to DJ, and there was no ACD DJ at the time, they were like, oh, this guy wants to DJ and he also wants to be part of the cruise director staff. Can he cross over? And then I want to say it was Richard Joseph was like, yeah, sure, let's bring him on and let's see how he does.
I do remember that. I can't remember what his name was though. I was part of that team.
And
because I think I was the one that was coaching and mentoring him on his DJing.
And he kind of shut down because he judged the entertainment staff for being free and just doing whatever, not really working. And then 2 weeks later, he apologized to us and was like, I didn't know that your job was this hard, because
this hard. Yeah.
And talk to passengers the way that we do, to the capacity of always trying to be excited. He didn't see that coming.
It takes its toll, it does take its toll. It's like people look in. I mean, I vaguely remember, right, when I was I can't remember what ship it was. I was deputy cruise director, and I was doing some swanning, as they called it, and I was at the Explorers Lounge, and the guy on the bar was like, I was having a genuine conversation with him, and it was pretty busy in the Explorers Lounge. I think I was watching a game show, and it was like, oh yeah, how's your day going? Oh yeah, busy. So oh yeah, it's all right for you though. All you do is walk around and drink. I was going, okay, cool. If that's your perception of what I do, then that's fine. Guess what I did a week later? Relocated that game show that kept him busy and making him his tips and building the rapport and whatnot with these customers. Moved it from that lounge to the aft lounge. And subsequently went to that bar that week later and went, how's your day going? Why in here tonight? And since they moved the game show down to the other lounge, I said, yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? He went, yeah. I said, well, I suppose I could be a credit to that, because I was doing my job, but I moved it to a busier lounge because it was quite busy here. So then we just put some, background music or some ballroom dance music on in here. So, it's a little bit quieter for you. And he kind of looked at me, was like, you did that? I said, yeah, because I don't just stand around and drink. And he was just like, oh, because obviously I was in charge of all the programming. So it's the same, if you want the traffic to come to your venue, and I didn't take it against it. I'll put it back the next week, but it was just a case of he had that chip on his shoulder, the fact that, we do nothing. And you go, well, actually, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes you don't see.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh yeah, okay, sorry. And then it was like, and then, at that point it kind of, sold the new relationship for he and I at that point, because he realized that, yeah, I understand and I appreciate what you do, and you need to understand and appreciate what we do, because it's not as easy as you think. And the Filipino guy on the island that came across as a DJ is true testament to that, because he looked from outside and looked in and went, oh, I could do that. And then he got there and went, oh, actually, shit, I can't. Because again, it takes a very special breed of person to be able to do that. But shit.
Oh, nature of the beast,
But
man.
ships, right? They're always going to be there, but
Yeah.
I think they're changing. Their climate and their way of executing things will definitely change. And I look back and I'm grateful for what I got to experience the 10 years that I did during the climate that we did. All the best to anybody that is looking to go on ships moving forward. I just wish you could have experienced what we did. Because it was insane.
If they're going for the experience of, going to the ports and exploring the world, I think they'd still get that experience. But when it's to the perspective of the party lifestyle that we got to experience, I think that's going to be a little bit harder.
Absolutely. It's it's insane. But look, I think again, I'll always go back to the people I met and the experiences that I got to witness and be part of. There's a lot of things I learned about myself. There's a lot of things I learned about other people. There's definitely a lot I learned about managing people's personalities, and it kind of definitely attested to half the things that I've done at this point in my life. And I don't, as something I mentioned, don't regret a single second of it, because ships will always be one of the biggest parts of my of my life. And I have a great deal of gratitude to lend to ships, because I always revert back to, I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for ships. I definitely wouldn't have Harvey, and I definitely wouldn't have Casey in my life. And being here in Australia, so appreciate everything I did, everything I've done, and everything that will come off because of what I chose to do. I wouldn't be sat here talking to you now if I wasn't on ships.
Yeah,
so
it's one of those things where
it's one of those things.
It's life, because it's being able to be brave enough to take on this opportunity that's being presented, that will pull you away from your comforts and give you
family
so much. Yeah. But
Mr. You also look
Hanbury,
at the missed Christmases. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, I remember there was
the missed Christmases. Yeah, the missed Christmases, the New Year's, the birthdays.
My first contract, it was Christmas, and I remember I missed dinner in the mess, so I had to go up into the Horizon Court to grab food off the line.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one in there. It's Christmas Eve. I'm the only one in there.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, they
everyone's
decided
partying
to play I'll Be Home for Christmas. And I was like, fuck you guys. And I'm just here alone eating my salad.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
No, but that's
Mr. Chris
that's part of the sacrifice that you make for having that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
mate, it's been a pleasure.
It's
Absolute pleasure.
So dope catching up, and I'm super grateful for your time. And even though the whole time difference thing is fucking so hard to keep track. But
it's insane. I think when I was telling Casey about our chat, and she was like, oh, who is he again? And I said, he was one of the assistant cruise directors on a multitude of ships. And then I said, this is the easiest way to do it. I just turned Netflix on and put 100 on, and went, there he is, that guy there. And she was just like, that's pretty cool.
That's fun. Oh man, yeah. Our lives definitely
but it's been a pleasure, mate.
Completely different directions, but two completely very different directions that are making us happy. You know what I mean? So ship life is definitely
that's it.
That. Yeah. But everybody, Chris Sweets, Chris Hanbury, if you ever find yourself in Perth and you need to go to the gym, check him out. And I'm pretty sure he's gonna have a lot
come to Surge Fitness.
That's going on. So check him out, follow him, and he's a great guy, as you just heard, and he'll definitely, keep you entertained if there's any need be to happen as a host for anything. But the 2 Degrees podcast brought to you by the Foundation. check it out. Make sure www.letsplayon.org and see how you can become part of the fight for brain aneurysm research and detection. Wow, I really don't even remember my log line anymore. Let's see if I can get this. This cruise ship
Oh
Dave
wow.
coming back. It's presenting 2 Degrees Podcast brought to you by the Play On Foundation. Don't forget, check out www.letsplayon.org and find out how you can be part of the fight in brain aneurysm detection and prevention. Other than that, everybody, thanks for coming out and mag-ingat kayo.